Serial is arguably one of the most famous investigative journalism podcasts, and has definitely spearheaded its genre of mystery. The podcast is about the murder of the teenager Hae Min Lee back in 1999. Adnan Syed, her ex-boyfriend, is accused of committing the murder and arrested. The podcast deals with the subject very well, doing proper research yet keeping the episodes entertaining to listen to. However, one thing it doesn't share in common with most media dealing with the genre of mystery is a non-conclusive finale. Evidence is presented both for and against Adnan, and if anything, leaves the listener more confused than when they started. There doesn't seem to be a clear or correct side to be on, and as is with many other court cases, proving innocence is difficult. However, there is evidence that suggests Adnan is not guilty. The difference between being innocent and not guilty is that innocent means, as the MacDonald Law Office states, that one has been cleared of all speculation that one committed a crime. Not being guilty, however, means that there isn't enough evidence to prove that one has committed a crime. While proving innocence at a trial is almost impossible to do, there is quite a lot of evidence pointing to how Adnan didn't commit the crime. Here's why he's not guilty. First and foremost, there isn't any physical evidence that ties Adnan to the crime scene. According to Koenig,
there was none. Nothing. Apart from some fingerprints in Hae's car, which Adnan had been in many times, there was nothing linking him to the crime. No DNA, no fibers, no hairs, no matching soil from the bottom of his boots.
If Adnan did commit the crime, it's surprising how well executed the murder is in some parts, but so poorly planned in others. He would have apparently taken care to remove all evidence from Hae's car but his fingerprints, as the absence of those would have been more suspicious if they weren't there. He was her boyfriend after all. How is it that same mind who takes care of all those small details then enlists Jay as an accomplice? Jay himself states in a recent interview with The Intercept that they weren't really friends. Choosing Jay as an accomplice would have been a foolish decision because he has no reason to be loyal to Adnan and more likely to confess if that means he can get the lesser punishment of the two. It is simply not likely that he is that careful yet that reckless in his actions. Hae is supposedly buried 4 hours after she is murdered. She's put into her grave on her right side. After the podcast's release, a medical examiner reviews Hae's autopsy report.
Prosecution has said that she was killed around 2:36 and then buried on her right side around 7 p.m., about 4.5 hours later. Is that consistent with that anterior lividity that you were talking about?
No, the time period is wrong. We believe that she was face down when she died and remained face down for at least 8 to 12 hours, maybe even longer, before she was then buried in that grave.
Lividity is a phenomenon where, after the heart stops beating, blood isn't being circulated anymore and starts to pool up in the body. Blood will settle in the body's lowest parts and takes 8 to 12 hours to set in. The idea that the body is buried on its right side after 4 hours means that it isn't possible for lividity to set in towards the front or anterior of Hae's body. And after that, the body is buried on its right side, which directly opposes the report that states the body must have been face down for at least 8 hours. This proves that Jay was clearly lying about the whereabouts of the body, lowering his credibility and making it more likely that the rest of his story is also falsified. Asia McClain was a student at the same high school Adnan went to, and a crucial part of proving how Adnan's not guilty. She provides a clear alibi for him.
I was sitting in the library bored to tears, and someone walked in that I knew. I asked him about his breakup with Hae. She was dating someone else, but that he just wanted her to be happy. He didn't seem to be disturbed or angry with her.
She claims she sees him at the library after school. They talk about his breakup with Hae, and one thing she notices was how Adnan doesn't show any signs of negative thoughts or the intention of harming her. She sees him the same time Adnan is allegedly murdering Hae. This is one of the more direct proofs that Adnan can't have committed the murder. He can't have been in two places at the same time, murdering his ex-girlfriend while talking to Asia in the library. And at this point, it becomes a witness versus another witness, Jay versus Asia. But they're not really on equal ground. Asia is a more reliable source than Jay. She sticks to one story and has a reason for remembering it clearly, because on the following day, she is snowed in. Jay, on the other hand, is not so reliable. It's a fact that Jay's testimonies are inconsistent and change from telling to retelling. He keeps changing where he was or the times of when certain events happened. And this seems to be well established between the people who think Adnan is innocent and those who think he is guilty. But there is proof to show that his story isn't entirely his either. Audio clips from Jay's interview with the police officers show how they are feeding information to him. Attorney Susan Simpson analyzed these audio clips on the Undisclosed podcast. She hears a specific pattern throughout the clips of whenever Jay would pause for long periods of time or say something the officers don't want him to.
Okay. What happens then?
We leave there, I believe. Can you bear with me for a minute? Okay, we left there. I took him back to schooling, and I dropped him off.
Did you catch that? Jay is responding to someone after that pause. And not just that, there's a tap tap, and then Jay says, "Oh, okay." And suddenly, a moment later, he knows the answer. Let's play that same clip again, but this time with the audio cleaned up.
Okay. What happens then?
We leave there, I believe. Can you bear with me for a minute? Okay, we left there. I took him back to schooling.
Jay forgot what happened after Patapsco. He didn't remember the next sequence of events involved him taking Adnan to track so that Adnan can set up an alibi. But a tapping reminds him.
Can you bear with me for a minute? Okay, we left there.
The officers have a system of correcting what Jay is saying whenever it doesn't fit their narrative, or if he just simply forgets. Under the light of this information, it isn't too far off to say that the officers could have made Jay say that Adnan murdered Hay. Jay also would have had a reason for playing along with the officers. He's a drug dealer, and getting caught in the possession of weed at that time has worse legal consequences than it does now. And putting the blame on Adnan means less work for the officers, as there is an obvious yet shallow motive for why and how he would have done it. Adnan knew Hay, which means that he is in a better position to get her somewhere he could kill her, and he dated her as well, which allows them to lazily paint him as a psychopath being obsessive about his high school girlfriend. Adnan is not guilty of murdering Hay. There has been no physical evidence found linking him to the crime scene. The autopsy of Hay's body proves that she could not have been murdered the way prosecution described she was. Adnan has an eyewitness to back up his alibi of being in the library during the time of the murder, and the spine of the prosecution's story, Jay, is supplied with the lines of his testimony. All these pieces of evidence together prove Adnan couldn't have killed Hay, but they weren't taken advantage of by Adnan's lawyers at the time, who essentially threw the case by mishandling their information. A better job could have been done by the legal system, and its result is the cost of Adnan and Hay's lives.